welcome to Show Up, Stand Out online visibility series for entrepreneurs. I'm your host. My name is Juliette Stapleton. You know me as the Visibility That Sells Strategist. Today, I have an awesome guest for you. Let me introduce you to a business integrator and branding expert, Holly Chantal. And she's on this side of me. Hi, Holly. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited, guys, because we are going to talk about your favorite topic, clarity and clear communication. I think it's the biggest issue with majority of people that I speak to, experts and coaches and consultants. It's always about, I don't know how to communicate what I do. People don't understand what I do. And that's the essence of it. It's kind of like a first impression, isn't it? So that's why I'm bringing you Holly today. Holly, for over a decade, has been helping visionary service professionals bring their brand, business model, and marketing systems into alignment with their next stage of growth. So if you're feeling like you're stalling now, your growth, and you're a coach or a private practitioner, Holly is the woman for you to help you, to help you break through that ceiling of revenue, create higher ticket offers, more scalable business models. And we're going to talk about clarity because clarity is at the heart of it all. So, Holly, how did you end up doing what you're doing? And this is, you are showing up very powerfully. You speak a lot. You do a lot of public speaking, I've seen. And, there's so much, you're helping so many people. Where did it start?
Well, it started back in 2009, actually. And at the time, I was doing website strategy and creating websites for coaches. And that's when I realized that clarity is a huge problem because even when they were hiring me to do their websites, they didn't know what to ask for. Or when we were putting together the content, they didn't know what their promise was. They didn't really understand who their target audience was. They really didn't know how to capture all of the things they want to say about what they do in a very short, concise statement so that people knew that they were in the right place right away. So that's where this all started. And I learned how to kind of guide my clients through that process. And in so doing, became really, really clear on how do we communicate what it is we do? How do we capture all of the complexity and the magic that happens and the intangible aspects of what you do in statements that anyone can understand? And that to me is it's always a challenge. And I love it when people they come and they say, I've worked with so many people on this already. No one's able to get it. And then we get it like that. And they light up and they are just so connected now to their message that they can show up and stand out in a much, much better way.
I'm actually getting goosebumps just even thinking that because I've experienced that as well. It's amazing to see somebody just having that relief from clarity. And it is a gift. It is a gift to be able to pick that. Sometimes we're cooking in our own heads and it's so difficult for us to step aside and actually just clearly see what's happening. And it's stopping a lot of people because then they fail to communicate when they are even if they're doing a live video and introducing themselves and they don't know how to introduce themselves in a way that attracts that real potentially ideal client in their audience, right? And so
or they end up saying it differently every single time.
That's right.
And that makes you feel like you're being inconsistent and that you're showing up like maybe I don't really know what I'm doing. And so when you explain what you do in all these different ways, it actually makes you feel bad about yourself. When in reality, what I find with my clients is we explore all those different ways that they explain what they do, and usually it's kind of like you're looking at a pyramid, but you're looking at it from different angles. So it's all the same thing, but you're just looking at different aspects of the work you do. And on some level, you might actually be just speaking to whoever it is that needs to hear it, that's in the room with you at the moment. You're kind of saying what they need to hear. And if we can find what that core aspect is of all those messages, that's where we find that moment of clarity. And then it's okay that you explain it in different ways because they all carry that same clarity of message.
Like a core. And, I will share with you, for me, in the beginning, especially when I was trying to to word it, to word what do I do. The problem was the actual terminology that we use in marketing, like the ideal client, and my brain just went into overdrive because I don't, these kind of the small things, but they would be holding me. Or target audience, and I was just because this is called target audience, that terminology, it was just creating so much fuzz in my brain, like anxiety. And I, instead of actually understanding what it is, there's another word that I had the same reaction, was prospecting. It just threw me into like near depression state, just because I didn't have relationships with these words. And I find that sometimes when you're discussing these things, there's too much terminology, but there is much less actually connection with what we're trying to achieve here. You have a very brilliant way or method, or to and you said that this is sort of, we're looking at different ways, but you have a system that you offer. Can you talk us through how can we approach this clarity? How can we start getting it?
Yeah, so I love that you're bringing up terminology, because that is something that really holds people back, is either not feeling connected to the term, being afraid to make a decision because it feels so permanent and that they'll never be able to move on from that. And that holds them back. And then there's also the terminology of what you do, the terms that come with your profession that other people might not understand. And so words are really, really important, because they mean different things to different people. And they come with different perceptions, different stereotypes. So if I say I'm a business coach, people are going to have different interpretations of what that means. And now I have to overcome those interpretations, because I'm not just any business coach, I'm special. And how do you explain that? So the way that I suggest you doing that is, one, when you're first talking to someone, they are trying to put you into a box. They're trying to relate you to something that's familiar to them. So I'd still lead with whatever the going term is for what you do. I am a business integrator. I am a branding expert. I am a business coach. Whatever that is, but then you build the context around it. And the method that I use is called the Trailblazing Trifecta. And so it's actually 3 pieces, and it allows you to build the context so that to build the context around what you do, so that you can clearly communicate it in a way that your audience, whoever you're talking to, is like relating to it. Like it helps them understand what you mean by the term and the perceptions that you're creating. So the first part is the philosophy. And what this is really you sharing your point of view on whatever it is you help your clients with. So let's say, I think the example I use in the exercise is a marketing coach. Let's say you're a marketing coach, and that marketing coaches come with all of those things attached, like I don't like prospecting and getting yourself out there, or the manipulative tactics, like the things that you just don't really want to do. There's so much attached to marketing. So to build context around it that kind of helps people understand the way you see it, you might say, I'm a marketing coach. And what I found is that when it comes to marketing, people often think that they have to do things that they aren't going to be comfortable with, that might be manipulative. Sometimes it's really confusing for people, because we're not all born marketers. We were born to do the service that we're doing, not market our business. So a lot of times it's really, really unnatural. So you're kind of building that container for someone of relating to the beliefs that they might have. You're expressing your opinion and your viewpoint in the industry. And that just kind of sets the stage for you to say how you're different. So then the next part is your methodology. And this is where you say, this is how I do it and why I do it that way. So what I do is I really get to know my clients, and I get really, really clear on what their strengths are, what are the best ways that they can show up, and what methods of marketing really make sense for them, their business, and are going to be easy. From there, we can create a marketing plan that feels easy to execute, is aligned with their purpose, their passion, etc., and really allows them to do the work they love while they're marketing. And then the third part is the promise. So as a result, my clients are actually able to build visibility. They are able to show up. They are able to get the clients that they haven't been able to get before because now they're aligned with their marketing. And if that's you, if you resonate with those points, you're going to lean in and want to work with that person, right? And all of that took maybe, if I put it all together, maybe 45 seconds to say. So it's something that you could get up in a networking event and say, and people would just immediately understand the value that you have without having to have a full-blown conversation with you and have to be talk all through it. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? So for someone like me, I talk a lot, and for someone like me to explain something, I actually have to sit down, write things down, almost memorize, first connect to them, of course, and then almost memorize them, because I know that if you just let me just talk about something, I can be there. So networking events, maybe one-on-one, and even at that stage, it has to be someone who is invested with some sort of interest in what I'm doing. I actually absolutely loved it. And there's a couple of things that I want to, just talk to you. Like, let's say you're working with me and I'm having these objections. You said to me, okay, Juliette, let's talk about your philosophy. And how is it what you're doing? Like, how is it what you're doing different to, or how, let's just explain what you're doing. And I find that, and when I speak to people as well, I do a similar thing, but not in such a structured way. But sometimes people say, well, I don't know, I'm not sure if, what do you mean my philosophy? Who am I to have a philosophy? And this sort of thing that I'm not enough to even show up in this way. I find that maybe it has to do with overthinking, or do you experience that people straight away object to or find that maybe the imposter syndrome kicks in?
All the time.
How to deal with that? How is there any sort of ways that you can build that confidence to say, well, there's my philosophy, and believe in it?
The way I do it is so when I'm taking someone through an exercise like this where we're putting together in their message, I will ask them questions that are probably more logical. So like using kind of the front part of their brain, which are things that they can answer when you have experience, like you just immediately have answers to those questions. And from there, we can really draw out what their opinions are. And from there, when they start seeing on paper the stances that they have and the opinions that they have, and they realize that they're really connected to them, they begin to have confidence in themselves. And they realize it. I love it because I have this program called the Branding Game that people go through on their own. And I always read what is your insight after doing this exercise part? And it's always, I didn't realize how much I knew. I didn't realize how, I knew that what I do is needed, but I didn't realize how needed it was. I need to get this out there. And they connect to their message and they get really, really excited about it. So if you're someone that's thinking, I don't think I have a philosophy, consider looking at one of your favorite clients and what have they tried before to solve their problem and why didn't it work? And you think about that, why, what have they tried? Why didn't it work? Why is doing it on their own not going to help them? What might they run into? Why are there might be other solutions out there that they could be buying from. So those solutions might be other professionals. It might be products. And, what keeps it from working? That's usually where your philosophy is. If you can explain to people why what they've done before has failed and it has nothing to do with them and their capabilities, but it's this thing, that's where you really are communicating your value. And that comes from your own experiences. So it's really, again, it's your point of view, because someone else might come in and see the exact same, line of issues and say something completely different. And that's okay, because we're all allowed to have our own points of view. And the clients that resonate with the way we see the world and do things are really going to be our best clients.
You really explained it in such a simple and clear way. And I also think that sometimes we don't realize that we know so much or that we have these opinions because they come so naturally. They're almost subconscious. We don't have to make any effort to think about them that hard. It just comes out. So we ignore them. And we don't think about them, and having that kind of system, or talking yourself through it, and actually thinking about what you stand for, why your system works. I think a lot of people, the imposter syndrome is the scariest one that stops us from progress. And when you say, well, why is your system working, instead of actually thinking about the fact that, well, it worked for you at least, and some of the and your clients, but you start thinking, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm something, and this is the time where you have to manage these insecurities and really truly think about. I think in my personal experience, it helps sometimes to think about things that you absolutely detest or hate, or things that are against you. We kind of focus on negative, I think, more than positive. So when we focus on those things that we stand against, it helps us also find, just turn them around and say, okay, well, I really don't think that this is working. Like, I am so anti full automation or lead generation from automation. I'm so for relationships, but I had to really connect to this thing that I do not believe that you can, generate leads from automated bots and that will be authentic or feel for another person like it's a good experience, because it doesn't feel for me this way, so then I can communicate what my stance is. So this is one of the things I just came into my mind. I have another question as well about your system, and methodology seems to be quite natural to me. How do you, what's the way that you approach it? But when you're talking about results, this is where I see a lot of people, again, they have this kind of resistance when you say, okay, so what results can you help achieve? And that's where we get blocked, because well, whether you had clients or not, sometimes sometimes you feel like, there's no tangible results. Maybe if that was something to do with an aha moment, or what is the best way to approach this, like talking about the results that you're making?
Yeah, what I find with results is like the biggest stopping point people have is one, what you said, definitely, like, I don't know if I can
Numbers.
promise that, or it's
Yeah.
intangible. Is that enough? And then the other one is, but this isn't different than what everyone else is promising. How is this different? How am I going to stand out? And this is why it's really important that we do the three, like the progression, because the promise relates back to the philosophy. So someone might say, I can double your sales. Everyone's saying that. But if you're speaking back to your philosophy, I can double your sales without all this negative mumbo jumbo, all of the thoughts, feelings, things that are going to come up for you, or without having to, spend all of your time. So whatever that problem is that you've identified in the philosophy, you mention it again in the promise. Now, if your promise is intangible, like, let's say you're going to be happier, or you're going to feel better. Again, when you attach it to the philosophy, it becomes tangible, because happiness is a very general thing. Like, you will experience more joy. Every marketer in the world will tell you that is not tangible enough to be a promise. It's too general. And what that does for the life coaches out there, and for the people that are, that's their mission, is it's really discouraging.
Yeah, it's true.
It's so discouraging, because it feels like anything I say is never good enough. And there's no way that I can capture that feeling that I want to create for people without using those words. And that's something I work with a lot of spiritual coaches, life coaches, where they speak in feelings.
Yeah.
And like, I can see their promise like all around them, like it's just in their body. And like, how do we get it into a statement? And how we do that is, again, this kind of logical approach, and attaching those words that might be intangible to something that is relatable, tangible experience. So you are going to experience happiness, so I guess if that was going to be the promise, what is the piece that's that's causing them unhappiness? What is the problem that you're solving that's getting them to the happiness? And that's what you attach to. So you're going to experience happiness despite the fact that you have a chronic illness.
Yes.
You're going to experience happiness, you know, even though X, Y, and Z has been your experience up until now.
And that brings us to really knowing your ideal clients, what you said in the beginning, and really, really understanding and then seeing what connects them.
Yeah. So when you connect it to the client's experience, then it really is tangible, because now they basically have a reference point to connect it to. And then they can feel that. Because if you tell, like, let's take in the chronic illness, for example, someone that has chronic illness has forgotten what it's like to feel normal. And if you tell them you're going to feel amazing and you're going to jump out of bed and you're going to have all this energy, they are not going to believe you, because they don't even know what that means anymore. So when we attach it to the experience that they're actually having, and we kind of give them that point A to point B in a way that's really logical for them, then they can connect to it, and then it's tangible and concrete and feels much better.
I love it. I love that you're bringing, we're so focused on describing the feelings, but yet it's the logic that can actually take us out of our own feelings, whether they're, whether what we're trying to describe or our own insecurities when we are trying to describe them, and sort of form them in a way. So last question I have is, what is your recommendation? How long? I know you said a short phrase. It should be like a short statement. But how short is the short? How long it should be, just to be comfortable? And should we come up with just one? Or what is the best way, in your opinion, to approach that?
Yeah. So when I'm working with a client, we actually put it together in a couple different ways. What we do is we actually boil down. So when I talked about the pyramid, how you're looking at things from a lot of different angles, we find that core. That core is usually only 1 or 2 words. So that's how short it can be.
Wow.
Any more than that, and you're actually bringing in too much confusion. So when we have those 2 words, like maybe the word is happiness. Maybe the word is, for me, I guess mine is 3, light you up.
So, okay, so you're not talking about the title or something, because, some people, it's actually, we're not talking about how you title yourself here. We're actually talking about the core keywords.
Yeah, it's like it's the touchstone for you. And then from there, you can build your message around that in whatever context you need. So if it's an elevator pitch, we start with the who and do what. I am so-and-so. This is my profession. I help X clients get from point A to point B. Then we give the context, which is the Trailblazing Trifecta, philosophy, methodology, promise. And you can really put each of, like, a sentence to each of those and have a 30-second elevator pitch. Now, if you are doing a about page or a video, it's going to be a little bit longer. But if you're following this format, and with practice, you'll be able to do it like off the cuff. What I have found, so what I do is, and as a result, like, those are the 3 prompts. You'll be able to, in the moment, deliver your message to whoever you're talking to. And it doesn't have to be the same scripted or perfect all the time. But if you're hitting those points, people will always understand what you mean.
I think that the key here as well, and maybe you will agree with me, if you're having this, say, if this is something that you are saying to somebody on a call that is potentially, or a sales call, if you lead with questions before, you will get all the little phrases and the little fillers that you need to make it really, really effective when you're saying it back. But so basically, just to summarize, when you try and work out your philosophy, your methodology, the promise that you're making, make it unique to yourself, summarize it with these kind of prompts, in this structure that you can be flexible, whether you need to say it in a short way, or you can expand, and as you said, on your videos and your about pages, when you're talking to people, when you're doing interviews and things like that, you're actually getting yourself, like, this is where the clarity comes in. As the more you do this, it's like driving a car. It becomes a second nature.
It becomes the way, like, everything I do at this point is a trifecta: blog posts, sales emails, webinars, everything. And just to talk about the sales conversation, because that's perfect. When someone is talking to you about, like, usually one of the first things you ask is, what inspired you to book this call? What problem are you looking for help with? Then you can listen to them and say, oh, well, what I have found is that people that are experiencing, and then exactly what they're experiencing, Often they try all of these things that they may have already said they tried, but they can't get results. And here's why.
And you lead with your philosophy.
Yeah. So here's why, you're not this is what's stopping you. And that gives them an aha. This person knows what they're talking about. This person has worked with someone just like me before. Would you like help with that? Yes. Here's how I work. Here's why it works when everything else hasn't yet. So it can lead into a sales conversation really nicely and allows you to have that back and forth with the client, not being overly pushy or giving a big pitch, but leading them through understanding you're an authority, you've dealt with this before, you're putting context around things that they hadn't even thought of, and it just makes it really easy for you.
And they feel like you listen.
Yes.
Which creates that amazing connection.
Which is huge.
Yeah, if you're told what you just said to somebody and they actually listened and they feed you the same information, you'd be so happy. It's an amazing feeling. So that creates a connection and trust and builds trust. And in no way it's manipulative at all. It's just really a good communication. Because I know a lot of people, have a problem with the sales calls and everything. What you've just told us how to use this system, and I actually have that. Trailblazing Trifecta. I can't pronounce some words. So why did you have to call your freebie such a complicated word?
I know, I've tried all different things, but it just worked.
It's a second nature to you. And as everything, this is actually a good example of something that if you feel something is scary now, guys, just practice it. And with practice, it becomes a second nature. You don't even realize. So, but where can we go and, get this wonderful document? I actually worked on it myself. Today, before this interview, I decided to myself, because you know what, you should always, I've done this, I know it all. You should put that mindset out of just put it away. And ever so often, especially if you're concerned with your brand, which you should be, every 3 to 6 months, sit down and do this. I found that this was one of the best ways of presenting yourself. So no matter how clear you are already, this is a good sort of a review. That's why I did it as well. Yes, I love it. Just and you know what else it helped me, and I'm experienced with this. I don't have a problem with communicating what I do. But when I did it to myself as an exercise to do it to myself and write it down, it gave me an extra level of confidence, and I loved it. I was buzzing. It was a great feeling, and it's all about feeling good, isn't it? Where can people get their hands on this wonderful freebie that you have?
So the worksheet is at trailblazingtrifecta.com.
We're going to have a link in the, we're going to have a link in the show notes.
And if you can't spell that, it's also on my homepage at hollychantal.com.
Perfect. Easy. Well, we'll have both of the links on in the description to this video. If you're watching us, if you're listening on the podcast, in the show notes. Holly, thank you so much for really giving us so much value. I thought it was, really, really clear. It gives us a very, very, it's not just clear, it's very simple way of clarifying what you're doing. And this document is really, really gold. So thank you so much today for your time and for your value. Guys, I will see you next week on another episode of Show Up, Stand Out. And so far, go get some clarity, talk to people, and give that more of that value of yours. I'm sure I'm still thinking about this, the fear and insecurity when people say to you, why are you so different? And how much I am talking to so many people who are struggling with it. You can see the fear in their faces. So don't be afraid. Holly is your woman. If you're looking for more clarity and you want to get that process, get somebody to hold your hand through that process, I suppose. Thank you again, and I will see you all next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.